It's about how we can ensure that we actually assimilate people back into the workforce. Because a job is one of the best ways for a person to not fall back into recidivism. A chance for them to be able to rebuild their lives. So how, whether it's through licensing or assimilation through the workforce, that can be more possible. And we'll talk about some of those things that are in here. There are other things as well in terms of the ways in which people who are addicted have the ability to interface with law enforcement to when they need help, that they can come forward and get that help. The bottom line is this: the purpose of criminal justice is to rehabilitate and reassimilate people, not simply to remove them. As was noted, almost everyone entering the system will re-enter society at some point in time. That is critical for us to take away. And what I hope more than anything else you realize is that while there is yet work to be done, a tremendous amount of dialogue has occurred and a lot of voices have connected. And while they've not agreed on everything, and while some may feel that this bill could have been or should have been this, that, or the other thing, the reality is it is a remarkable piece of legislation in terms of the impact that it will have on people's lives immediately out of the gate. Are there things yet to be done? Absolutely. Things that could yet be done in the next session and the sessions to come? Of course. But in the meantime, let's celebrate what does in fact happen. Ours is a state that has a remarkable percentage of its population incarcerated, and we have not historically been as effective as we would like to be, given that 44% recidivism rate, at making sure that people don't reoffend. That is the purpose of this, and again, that is what we should celebrate here, and the fact that so many people in the for-profit world, the non-profit world, people in the faith-based community, and people in the legal community, people in the Justice Cabinet, people in law enforcement, people on all fronts have come together to come up with something that is actually better for Kentucky, and I think we've done exactly that.
One of the best things that we can do for public safety is to make sure the people that are in, who have been punished, who are being punished for doing what they did wrong, have a smooth and successful transition back into the communities where we all live with our families. The ones that Chairman Fisher and I represent, the ones that you all live in and live next door to. We need to do a good job and a better job of making sure that transition is effective. Because if it is, that means those folks aren't going to come back. They're not going to recidivate. They're not going to keep reoffending because they've got an incentive to do well and to be a productive member of society right where they are. One of the first big pieces of the bill is licensing reform. About 1 in every 4 occupations requires a certification or a license issued by the state. Used to be 4.5% of the workforce nationally required that. It's now more than 20% of the workforce requires some sort of certification license from the state. You want to talk about government overreach? The government's having to hand out permission slips to go to work. And in the process, standing in the way of innovation, of economic development, workforce development. And that's something we can change. This bill sets forth some changes that have been moved through the legislature once or twice before. Changes to the licensure proceedings here in the state. There are 60 some odd boards and committees that grant licenses or certifications in the state. And before this bill's language moves through, they're able to automatically deny someone because of a prior bad act. We're going to remove that automatic ban. The licensing authority still has the authority to deny someone a license, but that license has to have some relationship to the prior bad act. And now there's a due process element to those applications. And the applicants have a chance to demonstrate why they deserve it. And why don't they deserve it? They're the ones that have done exactly what we've asked people in the criminal justice system to do. They broke the law, they were punished, they went home, and they didn't do it again. And in many cases, they've put themselves through school to put them in a position to ask for the license or certification. Those are the very people we should be rewarding with an opportunity here. It costs taxpayers an estimated $200 billion nationally because of it. It also lowers recidivism. In states where occupational restrictions are really high, recidivism increases by 9% compared to everywhere else. In the states where those restrictions are lower, recidivism drops. Again, improving public safety. One of the biggest factors, and this really is driving force behind a lot of the policies in the bill, one of the biggest driving factors in recidivism is whether or not that person has a job when they get out of prison. And we want to do what we can to prevent that, or to make sure that they do. The next thing I want to talk about is another bill that's actually come through the legislature. This is about a decade ago. This is the PIE program, Private Industry Enhancement. This allows a company, private industry, to locate a factory or a plant inside prison walls. 27 other states have done this. The federal government's got to give its blessing. There are 3 more of those that they're going to grant. I believe Kentucky's going to work hard to get one of those, like one of the 27 other states. But it allows a company to come and do something inside the prison walls for inmates to participate in if they wish. They make a wage like someone working outside the wall. That company can't compete with somebody that's outside the wall. So we're not hurting private sector employment for people who haven't already broken the law. But for the person that's in there, you're also withholding not just for taxes, but also for child support, or restitution payments, for victims' compensation board payments. These things that we want them to be responsible for. You're giving them job skills and training. You're making sure that they have a marketable skill for when they leave, so that they've got a reason to stay out and not come back. Cost-benefit analysis of this program shows about a $4.77 return for every dollar invested in it. If that's not more efficient and a better way of creating public safety, I don't know what would be. We want to join one of those other 27 states. And the final thing I want to highlight is the drug reentry program, the Reentry Drug Supervision Pilot Program. This is like drug court, but later on in the process. I want to give a thanks to former State Representative Lou Nichols, who presented this to the Judiciary Committee several months ago. And he talked about wanting to do drug court, but at a later stage in the proceeding. We discussed this with the CJPAC groups, the subgroups within CJPAC. And this was a policy that everyone believed would be a good idea. The drug court program is successful, and I'm a believer in it. And this just allows drug court process to happen for inmates or parolees who continue to have a drug problem. Class C and D, non-violent felons, non-sex offense felons. The people who genuinely have a substance use issue. And there's not a person in here that doesn't know someone affected by that doesn't live in a community affected by that. It continues to be one of the most challenging things that we deal with up here in public safety policy.
Let me talk briefly about the occupational license part of it, which I think is the crux of this bill. I just got finished reading most of that section here. So people are under the impression that private employers are almost required to reject applicants if they have a felony on their record. That's not true. But what they look at is what the state does with respect to occupational licensing. If a state has an occupational license requirement, then no one can be licensed if they have a felony on their record, then private enterprise is a lot less likely to do that now. So this change in the law will embolden, I believe, private enterprise also to give felons a second chance, a second look at the opportunity to have a place in the workforce.
Smart on Crime Coalition is a strange bedfellows group, a disparate group that likely agrees on no other issue, but are brought together by the concept that we can do a better job in keeping our community safe. We can do a better job in lowering that 44% recidivism rate at the 3-year mark. We can do a better job in addressing drug addiction and many of the primary drivers of criminality in our Commonwealth, like mental health, drug addiction, lack of job training. Again, it's a disparate group. Where else would you find the ACLU breaking bread with the voice of our business community, the Kentucky Chamber?
As you can imagine, we're a group that does not agree on much. But we can all agree on the fact that our justice system is out of date and it needs to be modernized. We need a justice system that functions less like a maze and more like a roadmap. This bill is a great step forward in terms of providing folks with that roadmap, away from incarceration and towards successfully re-entering our communities. While Kentucky has a crime rate lower than the national average, and while both crime rates have seen dramatic declines for decades, our rate of recidivism has remained stubbornly high. This re-entry bill builds off of successes that we've had in our last session, in great part because of Senator Westerfield and because of Governor Bevin, to build on expungement to make re-entry a possibility for more Kentuckians.